Hello and welcome to Salon Radio, brought to you by International Women Artists Salon. We are broadcasting to you right now live from New York City on City World Radio. I am Christina Liu. I will be your host for tonight, and I am in the studio right now with an exciting group of ladies. We are here with our wonderful founder, Heidi Russell of
Hello, everybody.
That is Heidi. She's the wonderful founder of International Women Artists Salon. We have Malini Singh McDonald.
Hey, gang. How are you?
Who will be presenting tonight. And tonight we have an amazing, fabulous theme of fierce women poets. We are featuring Valerie Keane and Audrey Dimola.
Yay.
Hey.
Where's that little button? Here it is. Sound machine.
A clapping sound. So just for those of you who don't know, You deserve all the claps, ladies. International Women Artists Salon is an international community of women making art. Today, we are bringing art by women to the fore of the art world and local communities through exhibitions, events, exchanges, regular salon-style gatherings, and maintaining an online forum. It is a community with shared resources to gain visibility for women in the arts. So a really great cause. And because we're an international community, we have a lot of bulletins of women doing amazing work around the world. Our own Candy Sterling will be phoning in with a bulletin on art happening around the world. Candy, are you here with us right now?
I am. How are you today?
Very good, Candy. Hello. What is happening around the world with these women in the arts?
So much exciting stuff, and I am really excited to share with all of our listeners out there for International Women's Artists Salon Radio what is going on of women in the world of art. Lots of influential figures today talking, just getting a lot of attention in women. So first we're going to talk a little bit about Lupita, which was, of course, the supporting actress. She recently won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress for 12 Years a Slave, and she was actually named one of People's Most Beautiful Persons of 2014.
Amazing.
So I thought that was exciting because her role is pretty groundbreaking, and she was also one of the first black women to actually gain a Lancome contract. So
wow.
She's a Mexican dual citizenship with Mexico and her home country in Africa, and I think it's just such an exciting story to kind of hear her journey. And CNN actually covered that. So that kind of kicks things off a little bit.
That's amazing.
Heading over to the UK. We have artist Annie Kevins, who was actually in her latest exhibition, which opens today, was spawned by a question, which was, would she return to work after having a child? And she was so infuriated when asked. She actually produced an entire exhibit of women and the history of art, which actually, opens tomorrow and runs until June 6th over in the UK, and we'll share some more information and details about that on our page. But what the exhibit features is women artists who are actually mothers. So pretty exciting stuff, and kind of an interesting beginning to know that was actually out of her frustration and her anger of being asked that question. So that was artist Annie Kevins, whose exhibition honors the art of motherhood. So now coming from London and Paris news, we have a story about the 67th Cannes Film Festival, where the majority of judges are actually women. So this is a festival that happens, in a sleepy Mediterranean seaside town of Cannes that attracts a lot of attention and media within the film industry. So it opens this Wednesday this week, and we'll be hearing from a lot of female judges, and that's kind of exciting that that's been a theme here on Salon Radio with women in film. So seeing that there are so many voices on that panel is certainly exciting, I would say. Finally, we're going to turn it to another iconic female, Katharine Hepburn, who is actually being honored by the Connecticut Historical Society, and she had over I believe it was 60-year career, a career that spanned 66 years. And she's referred to as the first lady of cinema. So I actually reside here in Connecticut now, and so that's kind of exciting because in Hartford, the Historical Society of Connecticut has actually put together this exhibit, which is running for at least several months throughout the summer. So I encourage anybody in the local area or anyone who's interested in Katharine Hepburn as a leading lady and a pioneer in the film industry to most certainly research that story and check it out. So that wraps up our What's Happening in the World of Women and Arts. And Christina, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Candy. How exciting and how appropriate for Mother's Day being yesterday that there is a exhibit featuring and celebrating motherhood, one of the toughest jobs and very underappreciated. Well, right now, I'm going to hand it over to Malini, who is going to introduce our first guest, Audrey. Malini, take it away.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. Thank you. Thank you, Candy. We miss you. Miss
Thank
seeing
you.
Hope to see you in the studio really soon. And Heidi, it's always great to see you. And Christina, thank you so much. I am really excited about tonight. Well, the truth be told is these two women, I know them from around Mowage. Mowage. I know them from around the way, meaning that I know them from Queens, where I live and I'm from. And I'm just going to tell you all about them just to start before we kick off the interview. That's so formal, right? The interview.
So formal.
Yes.
Very formal.
Okay, so first up, my dear friend Audrey Dimola, and she is a catalyst and connector for Queens literary movement, performance and curation in Queens, keeping the creative fires lit. And Audrey feels her true calling in life is keeping the fires lit, in this case as a catalyst and connector for the rapidly growing Queens literary movement through hosting, curating, collaborating with fellow artists and organizations like the Inspired Word and Astoria Stand Up, and through her own poetry and performance. And that's just a little bit. This woman is actually one of the most important members, I think, of the Queens literary movement. And I could say that because I'm now a part of that movement. Yes. And I just feel really blessed to be included in that, and I'm just really glad you're here. And I want to introduce to you my other dear friend, Valerie G. Keane. And, you know, she is, besides being somebody very important to me, she is very honored to be part of the current Queens literary scene. 2 of her poems will be published in the spring-summer 2014 issue of the Newtown Literary Journal. Oh, yay. She curates a monthly poetry and coffee discussion group in Queens for writers and readers. And that literary magazine is Newtown Literary. And welcome, ladies. Hi.
Thank you.
So you're welcome, Valerie. Valerie's our featured later, so I allowed her to speak. I said she can speak during the interview since we're all friends.
Only when I'm holding the talking stick.
That's right. That's right. So, Audrey, I don't even know where to begin. So you're going to have to tell me a little bit about your work as an artist, and keep in mind this show ends at 9:55.
Oh, man.
Yes,
I was born with the talking stick in hand, so I don't know.
Girl, I know. I know it. So, yeah, tell us how this all started. Were you always a writer? I mean, because we've done theater together, too. So, I mean,
we have pretty much for my entire life. I've been writing in different ways, making, fake little magazines and writing little plays and things like that. But it's always been so important to me. Been really blessed to have supportive parents and teachers and friends. So it came out of that, but I'm born and raised in Queens. Mm-hmm. And getting involved in the literary community just sort of happened after I was working at a local magazine. Just wanted to jump in and just naturally started wanting to connect people.
Right. Now, the thing is, so there is a literary movement in general, and there has been a literary movement in Queens, but something happened. What was the catalyst? Because I don't want
Me.
to...
No, I'm kidding.
You are. Of course, my love. It's
I'm
in your
totally
bio.
kidding.
It's in your bio. But But, I just don't want to give this misinterpretation that there isn't wonderful literature and there wasn't anything going on prior to that. Because,
Absolutely.
Queens is very rich when
Yeah.
it comes to diversity and culture.
Definitely.
So what was before and what was the catalyst? Let's just use that word. That's the word of the hour.
I love it.
To jump into this new movement.
Yeah. I mean, before then, there were some reading series. Queens Council on the Arts was doing some readings. We've had a Queens Poet Laureate for a while,
Yes.
but I really feel like for me the marker was around fall of 2011. There's Boundless Tales reading series, which is where you and I met,
Yes.
Malini. Very special to me, and I feel like just something started happening where venues like bookstores that we absolutely needed, like Enigma Bookstore, Astoria Bookstore.
Right.
Suddenly, writers and readers have a hub, and things started, popping up. Or just, it's kind of weird because I always get asked this question, and it's hard to put my finger on, but I just feel like people started reaching out to each other more, and I just wanted to know everything that was going on. And when I went to one reading, I was like, hey, well, do you know about these other readings? Come, and that's the thing about it. Never to make any event or any happening just, a standalone. Always reach your hand out. Always invite to other readings. Always, communicate
Right.
with the people who are there.
And I feel like that's how I learned a little bit more about the literary movement as well. Because, our listeners, those who don't you know who I am? I mean, those of you who follow me, my background is theater. That's my passion, and my poetry is my hobby. So the reason why I was able to reach out to this community is because I had a couple of friends, Ida,
Zilelian from Boundless Tales.
From Boundless Tales, who for years was like, you need to submit something. And I just faced that fear, and then I started showing up. And then Valerie started showing up. Now, Valerie and I have been friends for a long time, but it was by accident that we started showing up at the same places and enjoying this.
Yeah, that was. I said that I was going to Boundless, and you said you were going to Boundless, and you were the featured reader,
Yes.
one of the featured readers, and I said, "Oh, what a coincidence!" And then, that really spun. And may I also just say that I felt that a turning point was the literary town hall in Queens that Audrey curated, because it really was every reading series, bookstore, everything in the literary world in Queens coming together, and Audrey curated it in this way that there was cohesiveness to move forward together. And there was such strength in that, and not division and competition. So I thought that was a wildly important moment in Queens' literary scene.
Audrey, how would you define that collaboration? How would you... what happened?
Yeah, basically, I just kind of realized that it literally was a turning point. And I just wanted to get all of these, myriad people, reading series, organizations, workshop runners, and just literally put them all in the room. Someone has to do this. Everyone has to meet. This is what has to happen. And so, thankfully, through Queens Council on the Arts, they started a third space series. They allowed me to use the space, and I invited all these people together and reached out to even people that I hadn't met before. For instance, like Wendy Anhulo from Canvas of Words.
Yeah, she's great.
Yeah, and Bridget Bartolini from Five Borough Story Project. And just having everyone in the room that night, it was, you guys know, it was a palpable energy. Yeah, no competition, everyone coming together, everyone face to face, and kind of from that moment, which was, this past October.
And it's phenomenal. I mean, it's really just amazing how there isn't that competition. We get together in a room, and we're just so excited to be there. Like Inspired Word on Wednesday, which Mike Geffner just debuted out in Queens. He does it here in Manhattan. But that was the kickoff on Wednesday, and Valerie and I both read our pieces there.
Yes.
And now you're going to be hosting that. So here you are. You started as a writer, and now look where this is going.
It's going up and up.
It's going up and up. It sure is. So, Heidi, what do you think? Should I take a break and have Audrey just go right in and read a little something from her book?
You're the presenter, so
am I in charge?
You
This
are
is
in
very
charge.
scary.
The last lady in the room, Malini.
So let's do a little transition, because Audrey published this book. Is it a year ago?
2
years ago?
A couple last week. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Do you want to just read a little bit of
Yeah.
from your book, Decisions We Make While We Dream?
I would love to, absolutely. And thank you guys again for having me. It's so wonderful to come together with other strong and fierce women writers and poets and women artists of all sorts.
That's the second word of the night, fierce.
Yes.
Yeah. The first one was catalyst.
Catalyst.
So those are two
Fierce
words for
catalyst.
Monday night.
We could write a poem at the end of all of
Fierce
this with our
catalyst.
words.
What a
Don't get me
concept.
excited.
Speaking of fierce, I wish you guys could see what we're all wearing tonight. We're just going to have to leave it to
Yeah, we look good. We look good.
We have fierce.
Okay, so this is one that's it's a poem called Transfiguration. It is from, as Malini said, proudly self-published, Decisions We Make While We Dream. Published it on my Nana's birthday on May 8th. And this is a poem about doing something that is now central to my life and my life as an artist, cracking open. Transfiguration. There's a purpose cracking open inside of me. In the squint of the sun, the rumble of tires on road, the electric sheen of the river in the morning, with city from end to end. This glimpse of the green in the gray, ephemeral spirit of spring, it tells me. You will not lose yourself to this season. And if you do, it will be to find a side of yourself that would otherwise remain forever hidden and unchanged. I trust through the ache that splits the heart as the sprout heaves its first breath of unbearable newness. I trust, as I always have, in some corner of myself, that sometimes pain can transfigure the soul even more than joy.
That's
beautiful.
Audrey.
Thank you, guys.
That's really great.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I think this is actually a great opportunity to share that. If you'd like to help us support women in the arts, we have a little sponsor spot here on our radio. It's a small token, but anything to get women's voices heard, artists' voices heard is something. So if you'd like to partner with us, this can be small businesses, this can be companies, this can be individuals who have an allegiance to the arts or in wanting women's voices to be heard. You can sponsor this radio program or other programs related to International Women Artists Salon. You can email womenartsalon@gmail.com, and there are various rates for one show, 1 month, or 1 year. Some statistics for City World Radio. There are 30,000 listeners spanning 30 countries, so your ad will be heard definitely globally. And there are many different donations, in-kind donations, space, donating food for our various salon events. But yeah, I mean, voices like Audrey's need to be heard. That was beautiful. Audrey, I actually have a question for you in terms of writing something like that. Where do you draw your inspiration for your poems? Is that just daily life? Do you have time set aside each day where you're like, this is poetry time?
I actually wish I had that. And people ask me that a lot, but literally it's just, I always say, like, writing's like breathing. It happens at any moment. Literally, you could be in the shower, falling asleep, like, you know, in transit, crammed on a train somewhere, and it just kind of hits you. So I always feel like you got to grab the pen, you got to chase the muse down, you know, and something like that happened when I was in a car going to my job when I worked downtown, and just kind of like riding on the FDR, looking out, feeling that spring, feeling that cracking open. And sometimes it's very strange. I'm really into poets that have this kind of metaphysical experience, like Rumi, like Rilke. Suddenly something is kind of hitting you, this divine, you know, literally divine inspiration, the way that they say the muse hits you. And some of my work just tumbles out like that, and I just kind of have to follow it.
See, that's why I love, like, talking to Audrey and Val, because they believe in this metaphysical, because I'm speaking for you, but I could be wrong, but I think we both write in this way, right? That I know for me, I don't know when I'm going to write. All of a sudden, a poem hits me.
Oh, when you think you know what you're going to write a poem about, it laughs at you. I heard something the other day that the poet Ruth Stone, she was talking about the concept of muse. Like, if you don't stop for that voice, it will just move on to someone else.
Exactly.
And that if you don't, you know, sometimes she catches just the tail of the poem, and she's got to write the poem backwards because she's pulling it in. And you know, but I really thought about the concept of like, if you don't stop for it, it will not stop for you, it will go to somebody else. And my ego really couldn't take that. So I am never without my notebook.
Where are the strangest places you've been where the muse has suddenly taken over you? The most unexpected, perhaps unconventional places or situations? And all of a sudden
I can answer mine.
Oh,
The weirdest one was when I went to see the Chicago Fringe. Went to see Valerie Hager, one of our salonistas in the Chicago Fringe. My friend Nick Radu and I were sitting on a boat, pitch darkness on Lake Michigan, and it just hit me right there. It was like pitch dark, and I'm like, oh my God. And that's where that poem came out of.
I love that. I love the writing in the dark thing. How many of you guys have you literally cannot see at all, and you're just scribbling into whatever, or you're just...
Oh,
Yeah, no glasses on, no contacts, and you can't even see what you're writing.
Exactly.
Just, you know.
Reading it the next morning is great.
Yes.
What on earth was this? But it was the most brilliant thing when you wrote it down, you know? It was going to change the world.
No, honestly, that's the biggest thing that I've seen is just literally put the pen to page. Like, if anyone wants to give advice to writers, that's it. Even if it's coming out and you're like, I don't know. Even if you take a day, go back, read it. It's just moments, and even with journaling, there are these like small, minute nuances of your life that you just completely forget. Even if it affects you so profoundly in that moment, you just totally.
That
lose
makes
it.
a really good point, Audrey, because I noticed that when and when you keep I'll speak for myself, when I keep a journal of just observations or just little thoughts or just little triggers or just little, and that they will, and what I think is going to be a complete poem never is. But then these little parts start speaking to one another within your notebook. And all of a sudden this other poem comes out entirely, and you have no idea that they had anything to do with each other.
Seriously.
And you don't feel like you're doing it. It's not really you. It's just coming from this other space, this other place, you know?
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah.
That's the thing about it, to trust. I know Valerie and I have really, wrestled and struggled and experienced a lot with just trusting the craft and trusting yourself as a writer, trusting yourself as an artist. Back in the day, I definitely had fears of inspiration running dry, or, I'd be writing something and I'd be like, when is the moment when this is going to, dry up? When is this, poem going to stop? But it's just trusting in that, knowing in your heart, you're a writer, you're a creative person, no matter what, whether you're doing it through gritted teeth or like wild abandon. That's who you are.
I have a question for both of you. When did you know you were a poet? Like then, look at the face. Oh my God.
I am still asking around for who has the application for that, because
That's awesome.
And Christina and I were just talking about this 5 minutes before the show. What is that? What's a poet?
What is that? Yeah,
When you
what
want
is
to feel
that?
fancy.
Poetry
When you want to
talent.
feel fancy.
That's when you're...
A fancy poet.
The best thing is like the looks that you get when you tell people you're a poet.
I know.
Oh dear.
It's kind of like, I'm a 16th century harpsichord player. Like that's the look
that would
you
make
get.
more sense. I almost think that it's this thing that you can't self-diagnose yourself as one. And I think that, being a poet is only maybe 50% of it is writing, maybe even like 10% of it, and the other 90% of it is the way that you look at the world and process the world and living and experiencing. I mean, I had this moment this morning where I planted these little plants from seeds like lettuce and Swiss chard and things, and I didn't think they were, I'm not good at this, but I'm very drawn to gardening, like Stanley Kunitz. And they sprouted, and I found them this morning, and I wept. Just wept. And I was like, that's not normal.
You must be a poet.
I'm a poet.
Honestly, yeah.
But there is something to that. There is something to feeling that deeply and then trying to get it into this very economical line that's just so saturated with human experience or other experience.
It sounds like part of being a poet, regardless of what venue you end up sharing your inspirations with, is, like you were saying, Valerie, an openness to receiving the world.
Oh, yes.
Before you start giving out to it, that openness and just taking in and letting yourself be affected by it. I find that, unfortunately, I feel like we're losing this desire to be vulnerable more and more.
Carolyn, absolutely. Carolyn Forche, the poet Carolyn Forche, said, that poetry is not born out of a moral impulse, but out of a not knowing. And I really held on to that, because I think that every time that we think that we're going to get up on our soapbox and say something important, it's really in the not knowing that we connect to other human beings.
Right.
It's really in the confusion and the humanness,
the messiness, the embracing of the messiness, the relating to each other messiness. You know, I think that's probably the most fundamental place we can relate on that.
Yeah.
We're all always scrambling to figure out what the human condition is, what it means to exist day to day as a human. Like, that's confusing.
Yeah. But you know what's really cool, though? When you go to these type of literary gatherings, right? And you sit there for 3 hours, like we did on Wednesday night for Inspired Word. Yeah. You really do hear such a variety of writings. Oh my God, and none of it is wrong. All of it came from this authentic place of wherever that writer was. And every poem, every song, every piece of prose, however you want to define it, was different. But just to sit in a room as artists, and Val and I have had this conversation about, you know, sometimes you just, as artists, need to just shut up and sit down and just listen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, it's not always about creating. Sometimes it's just about keeping it real.
100%.
And letting yourself be inspired, you know. And I just, you know, I can wax poetic about what I did there, guys. Boom. Oh wait, I don't have any
sound effect.
Sound effect, you know. But I do have an additional question, but I also want you to read another poem. If do you want me to read do you want me to read you the question? I'm sorry. It is very warm in here. I'm going to ask you a question, and I'd love you to read another poem, and then we'll go into our bulletin. All right. So, when you and the gang started these literary groups, how many was in the beginning? I remember Boundless. There was a Rez reading series.
Rez, Deb Emmon. Yeah, have to mention her.
And then where did it go? Because there's a lot more, and there's a lot more publicity being given to us. So
it's kind of exploded. First Tuesdays that Richard Jeffrey Newman took over at Terraza 7 and, you know, Elmhurst, Jackson Heights, that was out there. Obernice started from Queens College professors, that got out there. And now, you know, like I mentioned, that we have these venues, all of a sudden people have a place to go. And I was just telling Valerie this, like, you know, we can all be, you know, reaching out towards each other and having these connections, but there's still instances where, you know, I went to a reading for Newtown Literary Journal, which we also mentioned earlier, and, you know, you look out in the audience, sometimes you see, you know, familiar faces. I see Malini, I see Val. Some nights you don't know who anyone is, and you still meet people who are like, I'm from Queens, I didn't know there were any other writers here. I didn't know this was going on. I'm so happy to, you know, find this. And that's why it all goes back to community and never letting any event stand alone. Always trying to always help promote each other. Hey, if you like this reading, come read for this, or come to the open mic, Inspired Word, you know. So it's always...
And it's removing that competition.
Yes.
Because as artists, sometimes we think we need to compete, but all of us have our own special gifts. Yeah. And I'm all about specialization, and I've said this before, you know, my mentor Michael Roderick always says, you know, it's not competition, is specialization, because then you're just doing the best that you can do and not trying to create something that you're not, but because you see somebody else doing it, you know. And I really have to tell you, I think that's the reason why I was able to submit that poem to Newtown Literary, is the moment of clarity of just like, man up, do it. You know, or woman up, do it.
Woman up.
Woman up, do it.
Human up.
Yeah.
Human up, right?
Human up. I like that. And
I actually have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, we've spoken a little bit about how the term poet harkens back to this archaic notion of, you know, Renaissance person. What does it mean to be a poet in the 21st century? What does that look like? And what would you say to aspiring young or not young poets out there? How does one get started? And how does one join a community if someone were interested?
Yeah, literally just be open. You know, be so open, and these places are out there, these organizations are out there, these reading series are out there that are waiting for you to jump in and be a part of it. And just don't be afraid. There's so much about that cracking open, you know. And like Emerson said, he's my absolute favorite. Every heart vibrates to that iron string. You know, if you are lost, scared, you know, there's someone else out there who feels the same, and I always feel like words spawn words. So definitely, you know, go to any centers that you know of, you know, with literary goings on. You look online and just keep reaching out. Talk to fellow people when you see them. If you end up going to a reading and you like someone's performance, go up to them. Please go up to them and make friends.
Oh my
like
goodness.
That's the most important thing. That's how I met Valerie. I went up to her afterwards and I was like, oh my God, like I can't even handle your work right now. You know, that's the thing that we need to do to kind of, you know, erase this wall. It's so, you know, it's so sad to go to a reading and then just leave and never say anything to your fellow readers, never say anything to the audience members, and just be like, okay, well, I got on my soapbox and now I'm done.
Poetry is meant to be discussed. And also, I would tell people, read.
Yes.
Read great poetry. Have it inform your work.
Yes.
There's no way to be a great writer if you're not reading great
So true.
poetry.
That is so true. And I also want to say this because I'm not the best at remembering lines. Yes, I used to be an actress. Not the best at remembering lines. And I have to tell you, like, the fact that Val and Audrey could just, you know, spew lines, I really can't do that. But that doesn't make me less of a writer. You know, well, I could give you, because I could not stop for death, a little Dickinson. But seriously, you know, but I think it's everybody is who they are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
Which sometimes
Malini.
makes it scary, I feel, to be able to share your work. You know, it's so who you are. It's such a poetry. It's so vulnerable. To bring that word back again. Third word of the night. Catalyst, fierce, vulnerable.
That's great.
Well, Audrey, speak on that vulnerability, like remembering to come from the source, like what we were talking about earlier today, coming from the source. And
Yeah, because that's the place where everything emanates from, and sometimes we get caught up with huge air quotes you guys can't see who we are in the world, our reputation, or whatever we're doing, and we kind of
Reputation, status.
yes, exactly,
things.
yeah, you know,
being published.
Yes.
Forget it.
Yeah, no,
Don't worry
honestly,
about
good
it.
advice.
Yeah,
Yes, very
don't
good
worry
advice.
about it.
it's so important
Just
to
write.
just exactly, write and just inhabit your life and feel everything as deeply as you can, because that's the reason that we're here, I believe, at least, you know. That's the reason why we're human. That's the reason why we laugh, cry, sing, bleed, howl, like to feel and put it out in the world. And that's what makes the most authentic art and the greatest art, and just to try to be brave enough.
I have to say, it feels amazing seeing how empowered both of you are and sharing your voice so courageously.
Thank you.
And I mean, what would you say? Was there ever a stage in your poetry history and your artistry history and your just being a person history where you were self-conscious about sharing your work, where you're shy about it? And what would you say?
5 minutes ago.
Amazing.
Oh my gosh,
And what
yeah.
advice
Every
would you
single
give
second.
to young people who have just, you know, notebooks on notebooks at home of work that they're scared to share outside? What would you say to them?
Or what you said to me on Wednesday when I said I didn't want to go.
Yes.
When I say, was it good?
So hilarious.
They were kind of mean to
True
me,
artists,
but
they're living
they
in the
were
moment.
loving. But
They
that's
don't
a great
remember.
question.
What did I say?
I don't remember, but you both were like, pull it together and just do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it too. But that's a great question.
I witnessed once this this tremendous well-known poet before she gave a lecture, and it was the most astounding lecture I've ever heard. And I won't say her name because I'm going to expose her vulnerability, and she'd probably be okay with that. But I saw her before she got up to give the lecture, and she was terrified. And all these other poets, great poets, well-known poets around her were saying, we're here for you. You're going to be great. That's why we're here. We're here for you. And she got up and she gave this lecture, and we jumped to our feet at the end. It was just astounding, and I couldn't believe that she was terrified. And I hung on to that, and I said, you know what? If you're scared, it just means you care.
Yes.
Don't let it paralyze
truth.
you. It's like
that's the
30
truth.
seconds of shaking. Like, what do we say? Speak even if your voice shakes. What's that quote?
Yeah, speak
Don't
even
worry
if your
about
voice
it. You're going to shake through the first one. Just do it anyway. And just remember, it's not about you. Once you've written it, you no longer own it. It's not your work. Your work is done. You reading it in front of people is not your business what they think once it's out there. It's for them to decide what it's going to mean to them.
That's so good.
That's great.
That's
I think that
really
translates to any kind of
Yes.
art performance
I
or
think
not.
so.
That
It does
it's
in
meant
my
to be not just consumed, but once it's a creation of something that exists in the world that can reach other people, that can touch other people. In a similar note, I heard a wonderful thing from a fellow actress of mine who said she creates for that person or that community that suffers most, who can benefit and who will touch, not the person who can hear or not hear, but the person who, because of these words, because of this music, because of whatever it is that's being created, can reduce some kind of suffering, can transcend some stage in their life, who can feel that much more empowered than they were before.
And that's the reason to create art. That's the reason.
Accessibility, I think, is huge, and just you don't have to be someone who's read all the masters or has a degree or all this stuff. If your work can touch someone just on the street, touch a young person, touch a person later on in life, just touch anyone from any background. Like, that's the palpability of art.
Speaking of which, Audrey, would you like to perhaps share another quick poem with us?
Yes,
2 minutes.
I do have a short one. This is actually speaking from another place of metaphysical manifestation. This was the universe talking to me, honestly, at a moment when I had lost a lot of things and sat down for lunch, and this is what came out. Sifting. Feel your sadness, but let it slip through your fingers. The sorrow will leave, the memories will remain. Sift through your life in this way, keeping the good, letting go of the pain. For when you look back upon your time on this plane, you'll find that the hourglass sands that worried you so have just spilled on through to fill the glittering shores of eternity. Your feet will be back in the waves, and you'll wonder why you ever feared you were running out of time.
That's great.
Thank you, guys.
Oh my goodness.
I just want to have a moment of silence for that.
Unfortunately, we can't have that silence.
There is a moment of silence. I have to. Someone, I think it was Sharon Olds, who said that the biggest line break in poetry, line break where the line ends. The biggest line break is at the end of the poem.
That's awesome.
Even if it's that small breath before the clapping or the great gorgeousness, that just second where the world is still and you just
and it resonates, right?
And the dust just settles and everything just stops for a second. Oh, gorgeous, gorgeous. Well, we do have to move on. Heidi, would you like to give our salon bulletin?
I would love to, and I'm just sitting over here in awe. Such amazing poetry artists here sitting around me, and I feel so inspired to go write something myself.
Yes.
Even though I'm a visual artist.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and what you, so many things that you're saying does transcend all the different disciplines, and just listening to your voice, trusting it, letting it come out, and
Exactly.
and then sharing it, letting it go.
Yes.
So, thank you for sharing
Thank
that, Audrey,
you.
and Valerie. Can't wait to hear more about your work after this little tidbit about what some of our salon members are doing around the world. As you may have heard before, we are nearing 1,000 members around the world, and we're just so excited in every corner of the world. If you're interested in joining us, if you're a woman creative of any generation, any discipline, any background, self-taught, PhD, the works, please join us. Send us an email at Women Art Salon, like Christina mentioned earlier, and that's women with an E-N, womenartsalon@gmail.com. So if you'd like to join us, if you'd like to partner with us, sponsor us, just champion us, say hello, we have a question for us, a challenge for us, we'd love to hear from you. So anybody around the world, please send in a message to us. So here are some of the things that briefly some of our salon members are doing this coming week, and you can learn more of the details on our Facebook fan page. So Brenda Bergman is here in New York City, and she's hosting a film called Taking the Heat, which is a documentary about the first FDNY women firefighters, and that's at Cinema Village tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. So get out to see that documentary. On Wednesday this week, we're going to music. We have rock star Sissy, who will be performing at No Fun New York City. And this is actually a networking event for creatives for actors and artists. So if you're an actor and artist out there, male or female, get out to No Fun New York City at Ludlow Street Wednesday night. And later in the week, we have opening up out in California. Salon member Erin McGreedy Baker is performing and stars in Emma Goldman, Love, Anarchy, and Other Affairs. And that's out at the Civic Center in Los Angeles, May 14th through the 17th. Up in Toronto, we have member Michelle Von Loy, who founded That's Women's Work organization, one of our partner organizations. And they've just opened up their Want Gallery, W-A-N-T. And they're having a market this Thursday, 5 to 9 o'clock, up on Dundas Street in Toronto. So please check out what they're doing up there in Toronto if you're up that way. Back here in New York City, we have several members who will be participating in a visual art exhibition called Trees here in New York City, curated by Dorothy Krakauer, and also members Lillian Gottlieb and Janet Restino will be having work in that show. And a couple Salon Radio alumni will be having their shows opening this coming week. Siobhan O'Loughlin, who was on last week, she'll be performing her piece Novice.
Natural Novice, I believe.
Natural Novice, yes, at Paradise Factory, opening this weekend. I can't wait to see it. I'm going personally on June 8th. And then also Salon alumnae, Kristen Penner and Laura Lee McKenzie will be presenting their production called Pieces. And that opens up this weekend, May 17th, and runs through June 2nd. And our very own Malini is producer, PR
Actually, I'm doing
agent.
PR for this.
PR, yes. Okay, sorry.
That's all right.
Multi-talented member, host, presenter. And out in Dobbs Ferry, up outside of New York City, we have Pauline Kuo's first feature film project called 1,000 Deaths, the story of Anna May Wong. And this is an amazing story you must see. So that's premiering Saturday, May 17th, up in Dobbs Ferry at the Historical Society. And we have Nadine Charlson, who will be having a solo exhibition at the Berlitz Language Gallery at Rockefeller Center. And that will be opening up this Friday. And then finally, down in Mexico, I'm going to project this out a little bit, not just this week. It's opening on June 6th, but since it's down in Mexico, it gives you a chance to buy some tickets and get down there. Right? So June 6th, Salon member Patricia Molina, maybe, I'm not sure I pronounce it right, and her visual art exhibition is called Infinidode. And that is down in Mexico, La Casa de las Conchas, in Puebla. Anybody speak Spanish here?
Sounds like Puebla.
Yes, in Mexico. So that's just some of the wonderful things that are happening for Salon members. And check out on an ongoing basis to see where you can go and see their work.
So as you can see, global indeed, truly grassroots art and grassroots communities at its finest. I'm excited to bring this back to our wonderful Queens-based poets. Speaking of grassroots arts happening, Valerie, you are also part of the Queens literary movement. Malini, would you like to share Valerie's interesting and eclectic bio?
It's short. Not really. No, I'm kidding. So, Valerie, I'm going to actually talk about Valerie the way I know her, if that's okay.
Please do.
Which is, we started off in the theater scene together. She's a fantastic singer and actress, and we've connected on a whole nother level in our friendship as, I think, spiritual mentors and mentees to each other, as well as writers and as poets. And I'm really excited about you being here, number one, with Audrey. But I'm also really excited because I get to hear this poem again. It's one of my favorites.
Mine too.
I love it.
Oh.
And just do it.
Okay.
Just do it, Valerie.
It's so interesting because this isn't a voice that I don't recognize, but then I realize I haven't written anything in about 10 years, so why would I recognize that voice? That old other voice is really old.
Okay.
This is called, I should note that there is a curse word in it. Is that okay? Am I allowed to say that? Is there a...
You are loud.
Okay, so remove your children from the room, turn your volume down at work, gird your loins. All right.
Earmuffs for the kids.
This is called I Stole All of This for God. The long poem is a literary genre including all poetry of considerable length. The definition of a long poem is vague and broad, but Wikipedia says includes some of the most important poetry ever written, like this one, which is being written right now in this writers group. I have so many delightful lines and scraps in my notebook that I have been accumulating all week. Surely a very important long poem is destined to be born right here, right now, next to my latte. For instance, this line about an important hat and how sex is bartered. This one about the butterfly effect and juxtaposing it with something I no longer remember. But look! Here is my grocery list from Saturday. If you meet Buddha on the road, kill him. That's an ancient koan. Is it? It doesn't matter. The first day of my mother's confirmation class, the minister threw the Bible on the floor. Everyone but the minister gasped. What did they know? Everything. It ruined them. When you die, there are two deaths. Banksy said this, but really it was David Eagleman. It doesn't matter. Don't listen to me. When you die, there are two deaths. The first is when your body ceases to function. The second is that moment, sometime in the future, when your name is spoken for the last time. That will happen. There is a day written on the wheel of infinity when someone will speak your name for the last time. And that's what I really fear. My arrogance will outlast my body. No, that's what I really fear. It's like Salinger's Franny. I am sick of not having the courage to be an absolute nobody. I mean, isn't that why I'm writing this? I mean, isn't that why I'm standing here lecturing you about ancient koans? Don't listen to me. I know nothing. I am nothing. I am no thing. Is that the answer? Even that is a trap. That story plagues me. That when you die, you go to a room and you wait until someone speaks your name for the last time. And when that happens, then you can move on to the other side, to the good part. No, that's what I really fear. I mean, every day I try to sit still without waiting. And in this story, I'll be dead and I'll still be waiting. And in this story, there's the story of the guy who owned a farm. He was an absolute nobody, but he's stuck in the room, waiting for someone to speak his name for the last time, so he can get to the good part, because his land became a university after he died, and every day they give a campus tour, and the guide says, the site of the student union now sits on what used to be Old Man Johnson's farm. And boom! That's one more day for Old Man Johnson, stuck in limbo, waiting for the good part. I mean, he was nobody, and his nobodiness condemns him. Maybe I should try to be somebody. So what's that? What's that? Every day I get up and I pray, God, should I be nobody or should I be somebody? My God, why have you forsaken me? And the voice comes back, what is the story you would lay down your life to tell? I have no idea, and that is what I really fear. I mean, I can only pick one. The saints say that the one is hidden in the name, the divine name, the name of love, and that's what I really fear, that I am being called to be pure love, because how the fuck do you do that? I met this woman at a poetry forum. She said to me, that is a very nice hat. I told you I would get the line about the hat into this poem. That is a very nice hat. It's an important hat. People wear unimportant hats today. Sex is bartered. What? Oh, she doesn't know. She doesn't know how much I have bartered underneath this hat. I have bartered my discernment for judgment. I have bartered my faith for self-delusion. I have bartered my confidence for pissing contests. I have bartered my generosity for doormats. I have bartered my naked body for expediency. I have bartered my brain for a paycheck. I have bartered my passion for lack of integrity. I have bartered my peace for yours. I have bartered my life for just one more drink. My cat died in October, inside of 3 weeks. Sometimes 3 weeks is all it takes to lose perspective on what is healthy and normal. How making charts and appointments with specialists is sometimes the only way you know how to love someone. In 3 weeks, I learned what Rilke either said or didn't say, that every angel is terrible. That cat taught me how to let someone work for love. She taught me, when being smothered, how to get out with your last bit of strength. How to let go when you can't breathe anymore. How to live again, even if you die trying. Don't we all die trying? I am carrying this message to you, but not the mess, for I am making my mess my message. Mother Teresa said the following, but it doesn't matter, and why are you still listening to me? All I can offer is my emptiness. Even God cannot fill that which is full, and I am emptying myself of all of it in this very long, least important poem ever written. Listen to me. If you meet Buddha on the road, kill him. I know where I'm going. I have no fear. I will meet you there. You can have my name. I am not waiting. I am speaking it now for the last time. Myself.
Boom.
Okay, then.
Wow.
So we gotta go. We have to end the show now.
Just taken us on a journey. We have gone to the moon and back and to the moon again.
That's incredible.
Everyone that's listening, I wish you could have been in the room with us. It is so clear, Valerie, that you are an actress and performer. Just watching you read that, watching your vitality, feeling that this room feels like the center of the universe right now. That was amazing.
Wow, thank you. That's really neat.
And all of our listeners, you can continue to ride this high with fierce women in the poetry world, women in the arts. Please continue supporting this important piece of the world that, I think keeps, like Audrey keeps saying, keeping that fire lit, Yes. I think this is one of the many ways to do it. And you can absolutely do that by following us on Twitter, Women Art Salon, that's women plural. Following our Facebook fan page, International Women Artists is plural as well, Salon, and womenartsalon.blogspot. We are here every Monday, and thank you again, City World Radio. Good night or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. And thank you, all of you fierce poetry ladies who are catalysts.
Thank you so much. Thank you.